This is TWiT.
So I'm really glad to have the opportunity to talk about that today because it's a subject near and dear to my own heart, and I know to yours too. You, in fact, have, as a composer, it's quite tragic. You've lost quite a bit of your hearing over the years.
Yes, I have. Hearing loss is a very, very common problem that people have when they get older. There are quite a significant number of people as they get older get hearing loss, but there are also, in addition to that, other ways to lose your hearing. And one of the most common ways is what's called noise-induced hearing loss, which is basically a fancy way of saying that you've been listening to way too much loud sound for far too long. And when that happens, even a single exposure to loud sound will create permanent hearing damage that may not manifest itself for 20 years later. But there really is permanent hearing damage that goes on even during those times when you go to, say, a pop concert and your ears are ringing for a couple of days and then they stop. You've damaged your hearing for life. And you do that enough and you can create very, very serious hearing problems. And believe me, as somebody with a whole bunch of problems, mine specifically don't have to do with noise-induced hearing loss. I've had other problems, but believe me, you really don't want this. You want to protect you really want to protect your hearing, and you want to do whatever you can to make sure that you have a grand old time. Listen to that rock and roll. You know, if you like to go hunting, but for goodness sake, protect your ears, because once the damage starts in, there's no going back.
Yeah. And this is a very important point that I want to make sure we make. You said yourself, your hearing loss is not due to noise and exposure to loud sounds, but rather to an organic cause, right?
Yeah, I had a number of problems. The first problem was with just to back up, there are three parts to the ear. I mean, I'm going to make it really simple. There are three parts of the ear. There's the outer part of the ear, which is the part we see in the ear canal. Then there's a middle section which has these little tiny bones in it that kind of serve as transducers and a kind of a primitive amplifier. And then there's the middle ear, which then takes all the vibrations from the bones and uses that to vibrate a fluid, which is then picked up by these tiny little cells called hair cells. They look like hairs, that's why they're called that, which then transmits it to the brain. So you've got these three sections: the outer, the middle, and the inner. And I had middle ear problems, which are fairly simple to treat. You have an operation and you can treat them. I had it in both ears. I had it in one operation, but before I could get that happening before I could get an operation in my second ear, I had a viral infection and I lost all the hearing in the operated ear overnight. It just was sheer accident. Yeah, I mean, literally overnight, I lost almost all the hearing. So I'm left with a very damaged right ear and a left ear, which is down in volume about 70%. That's the bad news.
That's the bad, especially for a composer. I mean, we all know about Beethoven, right? He was famous for being deaf and still being able to compose. And I know that you still continue to compose, but man, not being able to hear what you've written or what anybody else has written in a sort of semi-normal way, that must be terribly frustrating.
Yes, I'm sure it is. However, the good news is that the hearing that's left in my left ear, that remains in my left ear, is pretty undistorted and pretty clean. And with enough amplification, I can do extremely well. And if I have very good quality equipment, there's really no compromise in my ability to hear well enough to compose. The only real issue is that I love doing left-right effects, having things that start off with instruments on the left side of the stage, bouncing over to the instruments on the right, and sometimes doing that in all sorts of interesting patterns. I can imagine the patterns, but I'm no longer able to hear them. And it creates all sorts of interesting other issues, like everything comes to me from my left. So if you come up to me on my right and say, "Hi, Richard," and I don't see you, I immediately turn to my left, because that's the only
Ah,
way that I have. But in terms of composition, it really doesn't matter. What I do is I use extremely high quality audio equipment in order to be able to compose. I compose on a computer like just about everybody else today, and I have a pair of I've got them here, of Shure SE535s, which are an expensive and very beautiful set of earphones, and I use those every day. Or I also have a pair of Ultimate Ears custom models that I use, and when I have that, I hear quite well, and am able to just simply zone out and compose for the 4 or 5 hours that I usually do, that I did beforehand.